Thanks, everybody. Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Ricky Camilleri. In the 1990s, Chris Kattan brought SNL back from the brink. This is according to Seth Meyers in the introduction to Chris Kattan's new book, Baby Don't Hurt Me, where he details the fun, the laughs, and a lot of the pain of the years on and after SNL. Please welcome Chris Kattan. Let's hear it. Hey.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Baby Don't Hurt Me.
Yes.
Why?
Because I don't want to get hurt. No, well, it was, well, there's the song What Is Love, which has the title, or the lyric, Baby Don't Hurt Me. Mm-hmm. And it just ended up being the perfect title for the book, really.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, when you and Will came up with the Night at the Roxbury characters, you were like out at a bar, right? And I think you were at the Groundlings at the time that you came up with it, or was it while you were at SNL?
We were at the Groundlings at the time, and we went out afterwards, after a class, and we went to go see, we went to go get a drink, and there was this guy at the bar alone, and he wasn't, he was facing the bar, but we were watching him, so we saw from the back of him. And he was kind of like moving to the music, and then he turned around with a drink in his hand, you know, and then looked at the dance floor, and there was like a couple women dancing, and he was like, "Do you want to dance? You do? You don't? You don't? You do? You don't? Never mind." Nobody wanted to dance with him. And then he went back to the bar, had another drink, and then went back like, "Hey, now you want to dance?" Like nobody wanted to dance with him.
So you guys were just doing like a literal impression of this man.
Well, he wasn't bopping his head like that much, you know, but he was moving to the beat. We exaggerated the head bopping later.
What was it like when a character like that ended up becoming reoccurring? Because I feel like Peepers, you had the idea that could be reoccurring initially, but Roxbury guys, I mean, I imagine you thought that was a one-off.
Well, we first did it on Saturday Night Live, just the two of us, because that's how we did it at the Groundlings. It was just two people. It was just Will and I. And then writer Fred Wolf later said on the last season, the season finale was Jim Carrey was the host. And he came on, and they said, "Why don't you?" Fred said, "Look, why don't you add Jim Carrey to, you know, with those two guys dancing?" And then became three people. And then because of Jim Carrey's so amazing physically, it just took off.
I remember being like when that sketch happened, and my entire family thinking it was the funniest thing that they had ever seen, and we taped it, and we would watch it all the time.
No, I like to meet your family.
Yeah. Like your guys' performance, and then Jim Carrey spitting all over the place, and just being ridiculous and disgusting. And I think he makes out with an elderly woman and pulls her teeth out.
That's right, with his mouth. He makes out with an older woman so hard that he pulls her dentures out and he holds them. It's comedy, you guys. Come on.
And he celebrates it. He holds them up.
He celebrates it, as anyone would do. You know, it's only common sense.
What made you want to write a book about your years at SNL? And it's not just about your years at SNL, but what made you, where did the impetus to write a book come from?
Well, you know, a lot of people ask me and have been wondering, you know, where have I been? What have I been up to? You know, and this answers a lot of that. And you know, just that's what sparked me to write the book. But you know, that was the spark. And then came, you know, like all these stories I had about SNL that I forgot about. And you know, there's just tons of different experiences. Also, a lot of the other autobiographies, as good as they are about SNL, a lot of them don't talk about what happened behind the curtain, you know, about what was it like to work with this guest host and this guest host, and I focus on that mostly in the book, you know, a lot of that stuff.
Who was the worst guest host that you had to work with?
I can't say that. I don't know who the worst guest host was.
Were you there when Seagal hosted?
No, I wasn't.
You weren't.
That's been safe like that's he's not very good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what everyone says usually. That was the worst one. Who was your favorite?
Who was my favorite? Well, probably Tom Hanks is pretty cool.
He kind of gave you your shot in a way early on, right?
In a way, there's a character I did called Mr. Peepers that's half man, half. Oh, you remember? That's very nice. Half man, half monkey, and he ate an apple. And at the end of the sketch, he would dry hump somebody's face, which is fantastic. It was a lot of fun, especially when we had a female guest host, you know. So that was fun. But the first time we did it was with Tom Hanks, and he. I tried it before at the read-through. And it just didn't take off. Nobody was, you know, getting it. They thought it was too much. It is. It's a really in-your-face character. It's really out of control. So it took someone like Tom Hanks to say, you know what? I'd love to do that character. So if it weren't for Tom Hanks, Mr. Peepers would never be in the public eye.
I rewatched a Mr. Peepers prior to sitting down here with you, and I watched the one that you did with The Rock.
Yes.
It's an incredibly funny character, but what is also so funny about it is the escalation and how it just keeps going and going and going.
It does.
Yeah. Was that a joke that you guys sort of recognized when you initially came up with the character? That if we do Mr. Peepers for 4 minutes, eventually by minute 2, it will be hilarious because I'm still doing it.
Yeah, pretty much, And again, there's not much to it. But The Rock, that was... I remember him saying, he just followed me because he didn't know quite what to do. I just said, just do what I'm doing. And he did. And he did it beautifully.
He does a great job.
He does a wonderful job.
Where did Mango
15 times
come
bigger
from?
than I am. And that was pretty exciting.
Where did Mango come from?
Mango came from, 2 things. Was based on, I had a dog named Lola. She was a Dalmatian. Very pretty dog. And she would do this kind of come hither look. When she wasn't facing me, she'd kind of look back and go like that. And then I also had a girlfriend at the time named Vita, and she was from Russia. And when she got mad at me, she'd go, "Kattan, I kill you," like that. It's like not threatening at all. It's very charming. So I combined no and this, and then I got Mango.
Just that simply. And you took it to SNL. And who did you first show it to?
Well, the first person I did it with was Brendan Fraser. I forgot what. Yeah, I just wanted to do. There's also an old movie called Blue Angel with Marlene Dietrich where she plays a stripper, and everybody goes to see her perform and strip, and the audience is like, "Oh my God, we love you!" And that was also part of the Mango bit, is that everyone in the audience that came would be mesmerized by Mango's moves. And Mango wasn't really that good of a dancer, but they were mesmerized by Mango. So
when you first because when you first started doing Mr. Peepers, it wasn't landing at first, and it took time. You had to do you had to do it 3 or 4 times really for it to kind of.
It landed pretty well. I think it landed well the first time. It didn't really. I don't know. I think it really took off like when the women got involved for some reason.
When Charlize Theron got involved with it?
Charlize Theron got involved. Like, well, she's such a good actress that, like, the beast was unleashed, It's amazing. It's such a tribal character that I guess, in order to work with a tribal character, you have to become tribal yourself in a way. And it was funny. The women, I think, had a better time doing it than the men, Like Sting. Sting didn't like it. I mean... I don't know. When you think Sting, you think hump Sting.
I feel like he's so into tribal and tantric, and I think he's got it there.
Right?
Yeah. And when it came to Mango, it landed well the first time you did it, or what was it like when you brought it into the pitch room?
Yeah, it did well. It was the pitch room was I just pitched this character named Mango, and he was a stripper, and that was my pitch. Well, you have to understand though, when you pitch an idea. People don't go like, "Oh, that's a great idea." You just say, "That's what I'm going to work on this week." That's what you do. And then you write the sketch, and then you submit it, and then you read it in the read-through. And that's when you get to see the character come to life and really read the sketch and see how it works.
When you do with a read-through, do you try to perform it as much as you can during the read-through, or do you guys mainly read it somewhat flat and see if the jokes just land themselves?
No, you perform it as much as you can while sitting down. It's a little aggressive for someone to get out of their seat and perform, but I did that a lot because of the Mr. Peepers sketch. You can't just read the sketch. It just says bah bah, eat apple. So it was like didn't quite read so well. So I had to get out of my seat and get on the table and sell it as much as I could. I don't know if people really enjoyed that at first because it's kind of a faux pas to get out of your seat, But I did. I just had to do it. There's no other way.
You are from a period of time on SNL where characters were the big thing.
Yeah.
We don't get that so much right now. I think Kristen Wiig was one of the last cast members to really present a number of reoccurring characters.
Right. And Kate McKinnon, we're saying recently.
And Kate McKinnon as well has 1 or 2, I think, that come back here and there. But you and Will and Anna and Sherry all had reoccurring characters or reoccurring
Maya
sketches.
did too, and Polar did.
Yeah. Absolutely. And Jimmy did as well, I think.
Oh, Jimmy,
as well.
of course.
And then the show would kind of incubate those characters and turn them into movies, if possible.
Yeah.
And you had the Night at the Roxbury movie, right?
Right.
And did you have another movie based off of any of the characters or just other movies?
No, that was it. They were going to do a Mango movie. Disney wanted to do one, and I didn't want to do one.
You didn't want to do it?
No.
Why?
Because my mom really didn't want me to do Mango in a movie. It's like, please don't do Mango. We're having problems at home already.
So they approached you about doing a mango movie, and you're like, I'm not going to do that for 2 months. Sorry.
Well, yeah, for 2 months probably, yeah. But I thought of an idea. I said, if there were to be a mango movie, at the time, Britney Spears was the biggest thing, and I thought like she would be like my whatever spy. I don't know. I thought like something mango's undercover. I don't know what was happening. I did remember that we had an idea that there were a lot of mangoes at first. They were all the same, like all just thousands of me going, hello, 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 I'm Mango, on a place called Mango Island. And Mango Island.
Like a Bean John Malkovich
a little bit like
kind
that,
of thing?
yeah. Turned little Ileana, Ileana, was that?
The Cuban boy?
Yeah, the Cuban boy. And that only one mango was left for some reason. And that was me. And then I, drifted off to the coast to Florida and started stripping. That's how Mango came about.
In Miami, I'm assuming, right?
Sure, Miami, maybe. I don't think Orlando.
Yeah, I don't think so either. What was it like your post SNL tenure when you made some of these movies like Corky Romano? And I will say, comedy movies, broad comedy movies, are always misunderstood and maligned. Like we look back, and Tommy Boy got bad reviews, Black Sheep everything gets bad reviews, and then we go back and watch them like, no, this is funny. It's a receptacle for jokes. It's not supposed to be a serious movie.
Yeah, Roxbury did not get good reviews. Nor did another movie I did called Corky Romano. But it seems as though there's a big fan base for those films, almost more popular than they were back then.
Right there, that guy.
This guy. He loves them both.
I think the same thing gets said with the Andy Samberg's crew as well. Their movies like Hot Rod and even Pop Star, they get these bad reviews, and now a few years later, everyone's like, those are the funniest movies that have ever been made.
It's a combination of being cultish and there's really not that much funny going on otherwise. I think in some ways, just comedies, I don't want it. I'm not trying to be rude or at all, but like just comedy is just kind of, the bar has lowered a little bit in a sense, like movies used to be like Ghostbusters and Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and like there were these really, Groundhog Day, like really well written comedies, And
well budgeted, with great actors, and that doesn't happen as often anymore, I mean, everything looks like it cost like they're scraping by with pennies to make what they can for a comedy movie, and the comic book movies get all the money.
Right.
But if you go back and look at Groundhog Day, there's like $30 million into that movie, and every shot has extras and all the actors. It's pretty incredible.
Well, it helps when the script is really strong. That's the number one thing.
What was it like when Corky Romano was released?
Well, that script wasn't as strong. But what it was like when it was released, oh my gosh. Well, it was, Disney was behind it big time. They were very excited about it. And they had posters everywhere, and like they had this whole ad campaign, like, who is Corky? And it was my face like this. And, it was great. It was really well thought out. And then I was on TRL. Remember TRL? Yeah, of MTV. Do they still have that? Probably not.
No, they do. I think they've rebooted it. Yeah.
It was like 3 people in the audience. And, so it was a big show back then, so I was doing TRL. And then on the news they said, it was Thursday, and then they said that there's a red alert. This because there was a terrorist attack recently. I think there was a bomb threat at NBC, and a week prior to that. And they said that this weekend we're going to be on red alert. So the mayor Giuliani got on, and all these other people across the nation were like, the last thing you want to do is go to the movies this weekend. Stay home. I was like, no, oh my God. So that kind of hit the.
There's a conspiracy against Corky Romano.
Yeah, clearly. Clearly, the terrorists did not like Corky.
So you said one of the reasons that you wrote this book was because people asked, "Where have you been?" Right?
Yeah.
What is it like to have to field that question?
It feels fine. I mean, I've been here. I had a injury, and I guess we could talk about that soon. I guess that's a question coming up. I don't know, but
you had a neck injury while on SNL.
Saturday Night Live, yeah.
Sort of, it went undiagnosed, unchecked for a long time, and eventually you had to start getting surgeries, right?
I had 5 surgeries, yeah, and major surgeries in my back and through my neck. I mean, you can see right here the scar right there. Like they had to go through here, push the throat aside. I mean, some really extreme surgeries I had to undergo, and it it was intense. I mean, I don't know if anyone here in the audience has had major surgery, but you have to. There's post-op, and post-op is like you literally have to learn how to walk again. I mean, when you work on things, people go in your spine and do work in there. Like, it's really debilitating, and it's humiliating. I mean, like, I was in a relationship where my girlfriend had to bathe me, and we're just like 2 weeks into the relationship. I was like, "Do you mind bathing me?" You know, which is maybe in Rome, but not
Good way to
LA.
suck them in.
Yeah.
Trap them in the relationship.
Exactly. Play victim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what is that? So much.
But that took up a lot. What I was going to say is that took up a lot of. I mean, there's a lot of healing going on.
And then I was going to say, so much of being in the entertainment business, I think, especially for performers, is momentum and maintaining the momentum that comes with being quote unquote hot or whatever you were at a moment. What was that like to be essentially taken out of commission? Because it's not like you're a salaried employee where you're going to go on some sort of workers' comp and then go back to the job. You're not making any money at this point because you're freelance. Right.
Yeah. No, it was really, really hard. You know, I had to just. It was a very dark time for me. You know. There's something about, you know, being in a dark time that really sure levels you out, though. It really makes you appreciate life. I mean, it really makes you appreciate living, you know. And the book talks about that, too. Just like, you'll notice in the book, it's not all comedy. You know, I didn't write it to be super funny. I hoped it would be funny. But as I wrote it, you know, a lot of people are coming back to me saying, like, God, it's so heartfelt and really quite, you know, really amazing. Like, people are, like, really blown away because that it's not, it's a story about a comedian. It's not a comedy book, you know. It's about a lot of stuff that happened to me, and I think it's pretty surprising. People be really surprised about it. But, yeah. But anyway, I'm back, and
When was your last surgery?
It was about 6 years ago.
Wow.
6 years ago, yeah.
So this was a process that was going on for 10 years or
18
so.
years, yeah.
18 years.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
And then you've also talked about, because of the recovery and because of the pain pills that you had to be on, you then had to sort of deal with getting off of those, right?
And I got addicted to pain meds, yes. And then, you know, but I went through that, and I'm clear and, you know, blessed, and I feel better than ever, you know. I can't say I'm 100% normal when it comes to physically, you know, but I'm about 85% there, but I love who I am, and that's who I am. There's a lot of people that are way worse off than I am. I mean, I could have been paralyzed, literally. I could have been paralyzed. My arm became atrophied, and it was really scary, you know. I mean, surgeons, they're amazing now today, what they could do. I mean, imagine if this is the Old West and I was like, you know, I was losing my arm. They'd probably just like, well, we're going to have to hack it off. I mean, that's how it used to be. It really was.
Probably just like, he's going to die. Just like,
he's dead.
Take
like,
him to the
my
graveyard.
My finger hurts. Like, you're dead.
Yeah.
You got gangrene on your face.
We're just going to study you. Like, we're just going to open you up because we don't care. But I'm curious, you know, you said 18 years?
About 18 years.
About 18 years. When did you start noticing, you're saying 18 years back to when the injury occurred.
Correct, yeah.
And when did you start really noticing it affect your body and needing to get it looked at?
It was...
Because you ignored it for a while,
well,
right?
Yeah, because, first of all, when I got injured on the show, I was so full of adrenaline, and you're not really thinking about... When you hurt yourself, no matter what, you're just like, you can keep going, you know? And I was so full of adrenaline. And then when I found out that this pain was not going away, and then I got the atrophy, as I was saying earlier, and noticed that my arm was like literally getting thinner, and this was staying the same size, I started getting concerned. And that's when I, you know, told the producers about it, you know. But they were great, you know. They were fantastic about taking care of me for some of the surgeries. And, you know, but, you know, it was my fault. The accident was my fault, you know. Clearly, it was, you know, I chose to do it, and that's what happened, you know. I just wrote it. It just happened to happen there on Saturday Night Live, you know.
And, you know, you continued working when you left SNL as well. I mean, I think, was Corky Romano?
I did, but I had to have surgery before Corky.
Wow.
Yeah, because I would have had surgery when I was supposed to have surgery shortly after that accident, but I put it off because I didn't want to miss any shows. And I kept it a secret because I didn't want anyone to know about it.
I think what's missing, and I mean,
because I was so embarrassed, you know.
Well, yeah, absolutely, especially for a performer like you, whose main tool is physical comedy.
You don't want anyone to know that you can't bop your head anymore. Or what?
Yeah.
You can't do it. Yeah, you don't want to be told like you want to be an incredible guitarist and say, by the way, my hand is not functioning anymore.
Yeah, that must have been like that must have been what it felt like. And I imagine outside of just the physical therapy, there was actual therapy that you had to deal with as well. The idea that coping with the fact that your instrument was broken.
Yeah, it was awful. But also, it was a different time back then too. I didn't want to be. You don't want to be a liability. It's a faux pas to be that. It's a different day and age. And today, people are very outspoken, and it's best to be outspoken. Had I known it'd been best to be outspoken back then, as it is now, I would have been. I would have said immediately, something's wrong. I need to take care of it, and please take care of it. And I would have been vocal again about it. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah. I think we have a couple questions in the audience. Excuse me, right here. You have a question?
Hey, Chris.
Hi.
My name is Brett. I grew up in the 90s, a long time, big fan.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
So my question is...
You still look like you're wearing a 90s shirt a little bit.
Probably actually from my closet.
But it's cool, though. It's a cool one.
So, after being in a movie like Night at the Roxbury, at least for me, it cemented your place in nightlife culture.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering if after that movie or any time you had any particularly memorable or maybe barely memorable moments that stand out.
During the filming?
In nightlife and you going out.
Oh, in nightlife.
And did any of them by any chance involve Emilio Estevez?
What?
I do remember... Well, in the movie, I remember there's a bit where...
That was a reference. Sorry.
Where...
Okay. I thought you knew some sort of weird gossip story about Emilio Estevez. And
I thought we're going to have to stop and everybody leave and we have to do the whole show again. No, but Emilio Estevez, there's a thing in the movie where we keep saying the story about how we saw Emilio Estevez and we went, Emilio, and we just loved the story. So, actually, I saw Emilio at a wedding. He told me about that and he was very flattered about it. He says he gets it all the time, screaming. People are yelling Emilio at him.
I'm sure he gets it more than you do.
He doesn't get it way more than I do. Especially since I'm not called Emilio.
Such an impact on his life. How does that feel?
Yeah, Emilio. I mean, Chris. But the nightlife, I could say it was easier to get into clubs. I think we did so much research, Will and I, in that movie that we didn't really feel like going into clubs. And we're at an age where... Well, he was involved with a woman. I was more single. He was in love and he was getting married. I was more like a single guy, so I went out a little bit more. Jimmy and I were kind of like buddies on SNL, and he and I were like, we would go out more often than Will and I would. But we went to some clubs, I never really did any crazy stuff, The after parties of SNL are just fun enough, Yeah. And the book talks a lot about that, a lot of the memories that go on during that time, the after parties, and it was a great time. That era of SNL was really fantastic. It was one of the best casts, It really was. And there's not too many autobiographies that come out of that era. I know Tina wrote one, and Poehler wrote one, and I think that's Rachel wrote one. And it's but not too many people talk about the stories behind the scenes, And anyway, I have one. Can I have this for my room?
You want the screen?
Oh, that's the screen, right? Oh, never mind.
I think we have one more question right here. Hi.
Here. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Great.
So I do a stand-up comedy right now.
Oh, wow.
And I love it. The people know too much. But
They know too much?
No, because they cannot understand me sometimes.
Oh.
But it's fun.
Well, it's charming.
Fun.
It's sweet. It's endearing.
So my question is that who was your mentor or your inspiration to start doing comedy?
Well, I had a couple. I mean, when it comes to physical comedy, there's a silent comedian by the name of Buster Keaton, and he took incredible chances. He actually broke his neck and didn't know he broke it for a while. Of course, he was an alcoholic, but that's another thing. But he...
Do you know what stunt it was he broke his neck on?
I think it was something to do with a water barrel or water thing on a train, and I think he was swinging by it, or he did it by his neck, or something crazy.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's what happened. I don't know exactly what happened, but it was something like that. He may have done it a couple times, but like that guy, I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, I talk a lot about like my dad taught me a lot about like to appreciate great classics, Like if you want to be a comedian or you're into writing comedy, my God, you got to watch the old stuff. Like it's so phenomenal. Like stuff like Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin and the Marx Brothers and, the road pictures of Bob Hope and Bing Crosby. Like these people are so overlooked. it's really a shame. It honestly is. Like, because these guys are they're the SHI.
You can swear.
They are. Oh, I can.
Yeah.
They're the shit.
They're like, well, they are sort of creating the model for what everything is going to
created the
come
model.
after. It's hard to recognize the model in contemporary stuff because you're living through that. But like, if you watch the old stuff, it's a great learning experience.
They were the
because-
pioneers.
Yeah.
It was like, and a lot of even my great comedians like Steve Martin. Steve Martin's one of my favorites, obviously, and Eddie Murphy was, when it comes to recent people. I love Steve Carell too. I like, Melissa McCarthy's hilarious. There's some people. I think I tend to get drawn more towards the people that can really go into characters and are actually good actors as well. I think
McCarthy and
Melissa
Steve
McCarthy
Carell.
and
Yeah.
Steve Carell.
I mean, she's an
Steve
amazing
Martin, too.
actress.
Yeah.
And Steve Martin.
Yeah, but Eddie Murphy is by far probably my most favorite. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
When did you realize that Eddie Murphy was your favorite? Was that when you were growing up?
He was like, when he got on SNL, it was like, it was like another level of, it wasn't just like, where did this guy come from? He was like, it was almost inhuman how good he was. He's so separate from the rest of the cast. Everyone else was like on the same level, which is great. But he was just like, he was flawless. Everything, there was nothing he did wrong. He could go pee on the floor and everyone would love it. It didn't matter. Well, I don't know why I use that example, but but like he could do no wrong. It's unbelievable. And what really drew me to him is when he did this sketch called Black History Month and he messed up the line. He said, "So I messed up, shut up." And he said that to camera. It was unbelievable.
Hey, did you ever get the chance to meet Eddie when you were...
I did at the 40th anniversary, yeah.
What was
I
that
did.
like?
I held on to him as a hug for too long, I think, a little bit. He was like, okay.
Is that still, would you say, I meet people all the time and I'm generally pretty good, but every now and then there is one that I'm like, I know I'm going to be kind of weird around.
Oh,
this
yeah,
person.
of course.
Was that your instance with that?
That was with Eddie Murphy. Well, another one was a musical artist, and I talk about it in the book by, meeting different musical guests, like David Bowie and Prince and like, there's so many great musical guests that happen on SNL, but one of them was Bono of U2, and we talked for a little bit, and at the end of the conversation, I said, Bono, it was a pleasure meeting you tonight, and he said, "Goodbye, Jimmy." You thought it was Jimmy Fallon the whole time. It's a true story, too.
And I'm sure you were like, that's fine.
Yeah, I was like, and then Jimmy called me the next day going, "Hey, did you talk to Bono by chance?" I was like, yeah, why? He invited me to his birthday party. I was like,
Chris, the book "Baby Don't Hurt Me" is on shelves right now. People can pick it up
shelves.
anywhere that people buy books. It's a wonderful read. Thank you so much for
Thank
writing
you.
it.
And
for
it's
telling
also an
your story.
Audible as well.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Chris Kattan, everybody, let's hear it.
Thank you, everybody.